Venerable Yin, Venerable Children, and Venerable Sangha, and all sisters, brothers. I'm happy to talk to you today. So I'm going to talk about training, being training of the mind. Mostly talking about training the mind. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about my story, my history, to explain how today I'm in the position or role to start a new nunnery monastery in France where I live with other sisters. So I live in the south of France in a place which is called Vajrayogini Institute. It's a Dharma center. And actually I met the Dharma there in 1983. And I went there and at that to check the place. And at that time I was living with a community of women. And I was kind of hippie, yeah. Yeah? Yes, Venerable children can say. And so we had decided to check the place, yeah? And we were staunch feminists, yeah? So when we arrived at the institute, we were a bit suspicious of a religion where you see only men on top, you know? And we were very happy. We were very happy to discover there was a group of nuns there, yeah? And so the group of nuns was the Dorje Pamo Monastery. And that's where I met Venerable children at that time. And so we had sessions with the nuns, a bunch of us. I don't know if we were 10 or 20 even. We were many, you know, and we had some sessions with the nuns and they introduced us to Dharma. And I remember Venerable children at that time. And what struck me was that she was very skilled at answering all kinds of questions. And she used always a lot of logic, you know. And I thought this is no nonsense religion, yeah. Yeah, because, you know, I had a feeling, a sense of religion. I was raised as a Catholic, and I was always interested on my, you know, teenage years and my life in religious questions or spiritual questions, you know. But I thought Buddhism was different for that, very realistic, you know. So I liked that. So I remember Venerable children talking about the suffering nature of samsara, you know. Of course, when you come to Buddhism, you know, one big news is that you are looking for happiness, but you are looking in the wrong place, yeah. So, of course, we all want happiness and we all deserve happiness, you know. We say we have Buddha nature, yeah. So we all have this, the Buddha nature, the nature of our contaminated mind. Our mind is contaminated, but the nature of our mind is emptiness, and is pure. And then for that reason, we can all reach happiness. But then the point is to know what is happiness and what are the causes of happiness and where to find it. And the problem is that we are looking at the wrong place, you know. So that's what the Buddha says, that all the pleasant sensations are not real happiness. We are looking for happiness mainly in pleasant sensations, yeah, in pleasures. And we are looking there. But according to the Buddha, you know, actually this is suffering. Well, we cannot say really it's suffering. So this is something really that we have to check at the start, yeah? Because you are giving up all what you think is happiness, you know, so which is actually suffering. So it needs to be thought over, yeah. So of course there is obvious suffering, but also all the pleasant sensations, yeah, which are said to be suffering. Actually, we cannot say it's really suffering because we cannot deny pleasure, which is a result of positive karma, you know. But this is not the happiness that we are looking for, because this is contaminated happiness. They're contaminated by karma and delusions. Yeah. So as long as we are subjected to these delusions, yeah, ignorance and the others, we are always in a state of confusion and perpetuating this circle of dissatisfaction. So the origin of suffering is these delusions, and mainly attachment and ignorance. So it depends. Sometimes it says to be ignorance, sometimes it says to be attachment. Yeah. So attachment is like oil on a cloth. Yeah, it's pervading and it's very difficult to get rid of it. So the main thing for the practice is that, yeah, to diminish the negative emotions and increase the positive ones. So the training of the mind, we will say, the main thing, yeah. And so how to get rid of the defilements of these negative emotions, like, for example, attachment, yeah. So keeping away from the objects, yeah, is a temporary solution. It gives us a break, yeah, and then it allows us to do something else, yeah. It gives us a temporary control over our greed, our attachments, but it doesn't mean that we have completely eliminated. Actually, the problem is not the object. The problem is not the chocolate. The problem is the way I relate to chocolates, yeah. So, I mean, as you know, feeling is a mental factor, omnipresent, so it's always there. And so feeling can be pleasant or unpleasant. And so following pleasant feeling, there is grasping, you know, and then the desire attachment, desire to continue to re-experience, yeah, not to be separated from it. Then you have, so it's all connected, yeah. Aversion also comes from desire, attachment, yeah. The moment somebody prevent me to get my chocolate, you know, then I start to be upset, yeah. Or pride, you know, maybe I get the best piece of chocolate, yeah. So I must be something special, yeah. So all this comes from self-centeredness, grasping on the I, yeah. So the problem is we relate to things in an exaggerated manner, yeah. All this comes from wrong conceptions and exaggeration, yeah. And it's all about me, I, and my happiness as being the most important thing, and also as inherent goodness in chocolate, you know, as if the delicious quality of chocolate is really there, inherent in the chocolate, and it can really make me happy. So all this doesn't exist in reality. All these are concepts that we build up around things. So how to recognize the delusions, you know? So we say several times in this course, you know, intellectual knowledge is not enough. Yeah. So how do you go beyond intellectual knowledge? So we need to recognize the suffering and the causes of suffering by experiencing ourselves. So we need to look into ourselves. We need to understand our condition by looking deeply inside. Yeah. And so we have to learn to do that, because most of the time we are very used to be our energy, our experience and awareness are taken outside by objects outside. So we have to learn to look inside. And so check the mind. So we need mindfulness and introspections. Yeah. So main mental factors that we need actually also in the practice of ethic and concentration. So actually the best condition in training in the practice of mindfulness is the life of a monastic, because we focus and control the physical and verbal actions, and both by focusing on our physical and verbal actions, we create the condition to withdraw the mind inside. And then when the mind is withdrawn, it can notice and become aware and not forget of what it experienced, and there is no distraction, and this is mindfulness. So when we experience with mindfulness, we neither ignore, for example, if I am mindful of my sensations, or if I'm mindful of my delusions, so for example, my desire attachment. So it's neither ignoring nor clinging. It is acknowledging. I acknowledge my experience with mindfulness. Yeah. So I can acknowledge without clinging. So in this way, I can separate the experience of pleasure and the experience of clinging and the experience of attachment, for example. So in general, we can say we have to apply the antidotes to the delusions. One antidote is to see the nature of the mind. Yeah. So when we apply mindfulness, then we have discriminative awareness with a mindfulness that recognize the nature, the transitory nature, and the fact that these things have no essence. Yeah? We have the experience itself. And then another antidote for the delusions is to look. There are many antidotes, but generally, antidotes for the delusion is to look at the faults and to look how it's suffering. Yeah? To look, for example, how aversion and attachment, all these are really making us suffer. And so if we know they are making us suffering, it's like we get stronger. It's like holding fire. You want to get rid of it. Yeah? So, not much time left. So when I started with Buddhism, there were, at the place where I told you, I was very lucky there were both a group of nuns and a group of monks there. And I was very inspired by the monastic. Actually, I thought they had given up desire, attachment. And after I ordained, I went to live in this Dojipamo monastery. But at that time, many of the nuns had left, and we were just a handful, like maybe 4 or 5. And what happened is that this nunnery, this community was staying housed in one of the outbuildings of the institute. And this was like a temporary situation. So at some point, we just decided to give the building back, thinking to do something outside. Yeah, but it never happened. Yeah. But it never happened, So I kept being a nun because I love being a nun. I have been more happy since I'm a nun, so I would not give it up, And also I got support and inspiration from my teachers and also other practitioners. You need support, you need good friends around you, with compassion and wisdom. And then you feel like an anchor or give you peace, to continue. So I actually, after I traveled for many years, 15 years I was out of France. And then more recently, in 2009, I came back to this place, to Vajrayana Yogini Institute. And actually, the idea of a place for nuns has always been there, well, at least in my mind, because I think like ordaining people and then not having a proper place, we're supposed to live in communities. So I always thought about it. And around the place were about 12 nuns and living all individually. except we are two at the Dharma centers. And so at some point we started meeting. We thought, even we don't live together, we can be a community. Yeah, and so we did some practice together, and we wanted to learn to know each other a bit better. And actually, one of the nuns, at some point, one of the nuns, she wanted to give a kind of consequent donation. So she said, if you have a legal entity and you have a bank account, I want to make a donation. So we were not thinking at all about this, but we went to the government office, and then, because there was the old Dojepamo Monastery Association, a religious organization from 30 years ago. So we went to the government office and it was still there. So we kind of revived it, elect a board and revive it. And then about the same time, there was a donation of a property that was actually given to the Dharma Center, Vajrayogini Institute. And the director talked to me. Talked to me because actually I've been in a responsibility position in our organization, FPMT. I've been the director of the IMI for about 10 years, the organization of the monks and nuns within the organization. So I was a little bit in a role of responsibility already. So that's how I kind of got the baby. So we have this nice property. And we also have received some donation to start fixing the place so the nuns can move in, hopefully in summer. Like receiving the donation is quite a job. You need to be recognized as a religious organization, so you don't pay tax. Also, otherwise you pay 60%. So you cannot receive the donation. And then we work with the architect and organizing the building. And then soon organizing the community. Well, karma. Well, afterward, I thought it was a mistake to give back the buildings. Yeah. But myself, I was young, not thinking so much.